Hi girls, today we're going to talk about a very important part of your paper, thesis statements. Woohoo! Now, what the heck is a thesis statement? The thesis is the basic part or the main point of your entire essay. It is often an assertion that you argue and then you support throughout the entire essay. The thesis is useful for both the writer and the reader because it links the main ideas of the essay and it also explains the writer's opinion on those ideas. A thesis statement is usually one sentence. It's the end of the introduction paragraph, and it also is an arguable point that can be proven with supporting evidence. Now, you may ask yourself, why do we need a thesis? One, it really narrows down the topic. It allows the writer to express their opinion about the topic, and it lets the reader know what to expect in the essay. Finally, it keeps the writer organized and on task so you know exactly what to write about in your essay. Here are just a few helpful hints when writing an effective thesis. 1. It should be an argument. It should not just be a fact. It should be limited and not too broad or too vague, but it should be sharply focused. Okay, so I'm sure this is a little confusing so far, so let's take a look at some examples. Now, this first assignment is for the student to write an essay on why the North and the South fought in the American Civil War. So let's look at this student's thesis statement. The North and South fought the Civil War for many reasons, some of which were the same and some different. Now, let's think about this thesis statement. Is it specific? Is there an argument? Is it too limited? Okay, so is this a strong thesis statement? You could probably tell by my facial expressions that no, this is not a strong thesis statement. It's very weak. It relates the question without providing any additional information. You will need to expand on the information in the body of the essay, but it is important that the reader know where you are heading. A reader of this weak thesis might think, what reasons? How are they the same? How are they different? You need to ask yourself these questions and begin to compare the northern and southern attitudes. Now, push your comparison toward an interpretation. You might think that the South believed slavery was right and the North thought slavery was wrong. Why did one side think slavery was right and the other side think it was wrong? You look again at the evidence and you decide now that the North believed slavery was immoral, while the South believed it upheld their way of life. So what you do is you revise the thesis to make it a little more specific. This is your revised thesis. While both sides fought the Civil War over the issue of slavery, the North fought for moral reasons, while the South fought to preserve its own institutions. Is this thesis stronger? Now it's a working thesis. You have something to work with here. Included in this working thesis is a reason for the war and some idea of how the two sides disagreed over this reason. As you write the essay, you will probably begin to characterize these differences more precisely, and your working thesis may seem too vague as of now. Maybe you decide that both sides fought for moral reasons. They just saw morality in different contexts. You end up revising the working thesis into a final thesis that really captures the argument of your paper. Here's the final thesis. While both Northerners and Southerners believed they fought against tyranny and oppression, Northerners focused on the oppression of slaves, while Southerners defended their own rights to property and self-government. How is this one? Do you see the difference from this one and the first thesis? The final thesis presents a way of interpreting the evidence that illuminates the significance of the question. Keep in mind that this is one of many possible interpretations, though, of the Civil War, so it's not the only right answer. There isn't a right answer. There are only strong and weak thesis statements and strong and weak uses of that evidence. Okay, so now let's look at another example. This is English. Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn is a great American novel. Okay, so that's the first thesis you write. What's wrong with this thesis statement? Let's think for a little bit. Why is this thesis weak? Well, think about what the reader would expect from the essay that follows. You will most likely provide a general appreciative summary of Twain's novel. The question did not ask you to summarize, however. It asked you to analyze. Your teacher is probably not interested in your opinion of the novel. Instead, the teacher wants you to think about why it's such a great novel. What do Huck's adventures tell us about life, about America, about coming of age, about race relations, etc.? First, the question asks you to pick an aspect of the novel that you think is important to its structure or meaning. For example, the role of storytelling, the contrasting scenes between the shore and the river, or the relationships between adults and children. Okay, this will probably make more sense when you actually read the novel. So, now you write another thesis statement. In your revised thesis, in Huckleberry Finn, Mark Twain develops a contrast between life on the river and life on the shore. Okay, this next one is a little better. It has potential. You have highlighted an important aspect of the novel for investigation, meaning the life on the river and life on the shore, the contrast. So it's still not clear what your analysis will reveal though. Your reader is intrigued, but is still thinking, so what? What's the point of this contrast? What does it signify? Perhaps you're not sure yet either. That's fine. Your thesis will evolve as you're writing your paper and doing your research. Begin to work on comparing scenes from the book and see what you discover. Free write, make lists, jot down Huck's actions and reactions. Eventually you will be able to clarify for yourself, and then for the reader, why this contrast matters. After examining the evidence and considering your own insights, you write your final thesis. It says, through its contrasting river and shore scenes, Twain's Huckleberry Finn suggests that to find the true expression of American democratic ideals, one must leave civilized society and go back to nature. This final thesis statement presents an interpretation of a literary work based on the analysis of its content. Of course, for the essay itself to be successful, you must now present evidence from the novel that will convince the reader of your interpretation. So, what's important to remember is that your thesis, you'll start with a thesis statement, and it will evolve and change as you're refining your thoughts and your argument, and it will change as you gather more research. And it's okay if it changes over the course of your paper. So now we've seen some examples, an example of strong thesis statement and some examples of the weak thesis statement. So now you have to think, how do I actually write one? There are some ways to help you out. One way to create a thesis statement is to directly answer the assigned question, or if the writing assignment is not in the form of a question, then by responding to the task. So when responding to a writing assignment, be sure that you have responded directly to what is being asked. Make sure that you address all parts of the assignment. Another way is to brainstorm and free write to discover your argument. If there is no specific writing assignment, begin by brainstorming. So this could be listing the keywords and concepts, and free writing, which is just writing informally on your topic. See what emerges as to what specific aspects interest you. State your opinion on one of those aspects and examine the significance. Why is this important? What are the implications? And another way to write your thesis is to connect your ideas under one joining sentence. So if you have done some brainstorming, free writing, outline, or drafting of the paper and have many ideas and evidence, but not a thesis yet, look at your main ideas or your main supporting points. What do these ideas have in common? What overall argument connects those ideas? And what do all the topic sentences suggest? Answer this to help create a thesis. Now, writing a thesis is not an easy thing to do, and it will take time and practice. But with more practice, this research paper you're going to write, and with this wonderful video, you will become better at writing a thesis statement.